Lush green fields, after months of toiling hard, provide a ray of hope for a bright future and prosperity for farmers. The emergence of some undesirable plants in these picturesque crop fields vitiates better prospects and becomes an enormous liability to the crops. These unsolicited plants are called weeds. They compete with the main crop plant for nutrients, water and light, and impair both crop production and the quality of the produce. Besides, weeds also harbor diseases and insects that jeopardize the anticipated production of the main crop. Generally, weeds reduce nearly 1/3 of the crop yield and may even damage the whole crop. If weeds are not properly managed, they infringe on agricultural production and ultimately cause an income loss to the farmers. Weeds also adversely affect ponds, lakes and canals and cause them to lose their natural flow. The water current is blocked in these water bodies, which then become unsuitable for aquaculture. As per recent estimates, the loss to crop yield because of weeds amounts to approximately 20,000 crore rupees, which is nearly 1/3 of the total crop yield loss. In the fields, there are bushes and grasses of different sizes besides the crop, which are known as weeds. These are of two types, the narrow leaf type and the broad leaf type. In the Kharif crop season, the makda, sawa, doob, kondo, motha, etc. are the narrow-leafed main weeds, whereas kankava, patthar chatta, lahaswa, makoi, lat jeera are included in the broad-leaf type of weeds. In the Rabi crop season, the mandusi, jangli jai, doob, motha, pyaji are the main narrow-leaf weeds, whereas bathua, krishnaneel, ankari, banbatri, hirankhuri, sanji, kasni and jangli palak are amongst the main broad-leafed weeds. The jal khumbi, lantana, kans, gajar ghas, dhatura and satyanashi are some of the weeds that have posed serious problems in cropped and non-cropped areas for the last few years. Prevention is the first and foremost cost-effective line of defense against weeds. Generally, the seeds of weeds enter the fields along with the crop seeds through farmyard manure or through agriculture equipment. Thus, only pure and certified seeds should be used. Completely decomposed manure, clean agricultural equipment and pure fodder for livestock should be used. The ridges in the fields nearby roads, drains and banks of canals should be constantly monitored for weed growth and whenever found should be uprooted and destroyed. Before and during the transplantation of the seedlings from the nursery, weeds, if any, should be properly checked. Advances made in agricultural practices for weed control have proved successful. Those crop varieties should be selected that do not allow the growth of weeds. Sowing a period of crops, the method of sowing, the direction of sowing, the distance between lines and the seed rate should be suitably adjusted to check weed growth. For example, in a rice field, keeping a 15 centimeter distance between lines and a seed rate of 80 to 100 kilograms per hectare has successfully restricted weed growth. Keeping the land fallow in summer and adopting proper irrigation and water management practices after sowing can effectively check weeds. Fertilizer should be used in an effective manner and in recommended dosages only, since overusage provides extra nutrition for weed growth. The cropping cycle plays an important role in weed control management. Cultivating a single crop repeatedly in the same field cannot eliminate the weed species completely, whereas the adoption of a crop cycle not only breaks the life cycle of weeds but also restrains their number. Rather than practicing a rice-wheat cropping cycle in the same field, the cultivation of rice, followed by gram, wheat, peas, etc., controls weed growth. The growing of two crops simultaneously in the same field, that is, intercropping, improves the weed resistance capacity of the crops in the cropping cycle. In this, the intercropped crop itself suppresses weed growth effectively. The intercropping of jawar and arhar has been found effective in controlling the weed problem. To control weeds in wheat crops, in the rice-wheat cropping system, two methods have been evolved. With the first method, after the harvest of paddy, without tilling the field, wheat can be sown directly with the help of a seed drill. In the second method, wheat is sown on raised beds. Known as zero tillage and bed planting, these techniques have helped in saving of irrigation water, along with overcoming the problem of mandusi, that is, Phalaris minor, in wheat. For the effective control of weeds, recently, a new technology known as soil solarization has been developed. In this, on the fields left fallow during the summer, a transparent polythene sheet is spread and the corners of the sheet are properly tucked inside the soil. With this, the heat of the sun penetrates the soil and increases the temperature of the soil surface by 8 to 12 degrees Celsius. This not only eliminates the seeds of the weeds, but the fields are also freed from the harmful fungi, nematodes, and bacteria. At the National Research Center on Weed Science, within a period of 4 to 6 weeks of soil solarization, excellent control of most weeds has been observed. In order to make solarization more effective, a period of 8 to 10 weeks is being recommended. With this, even weeds regenerated from bulbs and nodes are destroyed. This technique is safe for farmers and also for the environment. The effect of this technique persists for 3 to 4 crop cycles. Weeds should be eradicated immediately on their breakout in the field. Hand weeding is not only very laborious, but also time-consuming. It is also not practical in adverse soil and climatic conditions. It is very important that the growth of weeds is kept under control within 2 to 6 weeks of sowing, as during this period, weeds compete for nutrition, water, and light, and impede crop growth. Generally, in the Kharif crop season, 15 to 30 days, and in the Rabi crop season, 30 to 45 days after sowing are critical. Some simple implements have also been developed for weed control. Among these, the khurpi, spade, weeder, and other weed control implements have been found useful in uprooting weeds. The mower has also been found effective in cutting weeds. Timely intercultural and sowing operations help effective weed control. The first interculture at 20 to 25 days and the second at 40 to 45 days after sowing should be undertaken. The filling of fields with water and then mulching also helps weed control. Weeds can be effectively controlled with chemical use. Herbicide sprays should primarily be used at 3 stages of the crop: before sowing, after sowing but before germination, and after germination. With this, weeds either do not germinate or else they die at the germination stage itself. In standing crops, herbicide spray is required in some specific crops like cotton and sugarcane, in which herbicide use helps saving of time and labor, as also the timely control of weeds. At the National Research Center on Weed Science, the appropriate quantity and the exact time of spraying the herbicides have been recommended. These are as follows. These herbicides should be used in different quantities for different crops. It should also be ensured that these are sprayed as per instructions before or after sowing and at the right time. The required quantity of herbicide dissolved in 500 to 600 liters of water per hectare should be sprayed. Normally, one herbicide destroys weeds of many species, but there are some specific herbicides that have been formulated for controlling some specific weeds. Herbicides are poisonous chemicals, and adequate precautions should be taken during their use. Chemicals should be sprayed in exact quantity and at the right time uniformly in the whole field. Spraying should be done in clear and suitable weather and when winds are not blowing at high speeds. Herbicide spraying should be done with a knapsack sprayer fitted with a flat fan nozzle. If the herbicide is to be used before sowing or immediately after sowing, the soil should have adequate moisture. The careful use of herbicide is not harmful for human health or the environment. The growing concern for the environment and encouragement towards organic farming has led to the development of low-cost and eco-friendly biocontrol techniques. In this, some organisms, particularly weed-feeding insects, are released in the fields, and they effectively reduce the weeds. Weed management methods are generally applied in each crop cycle, but biocontrol methods need not be repeated. For this, insects that do not harm the main crop but feed on weeds are identified. At the National Research Center for Weed Science, controlling water hyacinths with the weevil of the Neocatina species has been found effective. Similarly, for controlling gajar ghas, the use of a Mexican beetle called Zygogramma biocolorata has been found effective. With these successes, weed control in major crops with the use of biocontrol measures have been encouraging. Thus, farmers will soon be familiarized with practical techniques for using biocontrol measures. Recently, integrated weed management has also become popular as a practical alternative. In this, 2 or more weed management methods are synchronized in such a manner that the loss due to weeds is kept below the economic threshold level. In wheat, agronomic practices, along with the use of herbicides, have effectively controlled the Phalaris minor weed. Chemical and mechanical measures, when used together in a proper manner, can also control weeds. Losses due to weeds are the main problem of Indian agriculture and farmers. The National Research Center on Weed Science has developed effective, practical, and sustainable weed control techniques and has greatly contributed to the progress of agriculture. Effective weed control techniques that include mechanical and chemical controls have been developed at the center. The center has effectively disseminated these technologies to the farmers in the field. Productivity and the income level of farmers who have adopted these weed control techniques have increased. With this, the work on the development of more effective and sustainable eco-friendly techniques of weed control are in progress at the center. Hopefully, in the future, these new weed control measures will help in further reducing the impact of weeds in cropping systems.